feel like I'm slowly getting used to and understanding the ideal amount of rest and the variations in intensity between my three planche training sessions per week. Now, originally, I used to just go about it by doing every single session the exact same. So I'll keep all the volume the exact same. I just disregarded how I felt. So there was very minimal auto regulation that was as a fundamental, and instead the intensity did not change whatsoever. I was being very stubborn with this notion that I needed to just get in and get the work done, and I lacked the understanding, or at least the experience, to acknowledge that I think my body, well, although it has adapted to the volume demand over those three training sessions, over like across like a month of training, is that with time, that requires a bit more of a variation in intensity, like I mentioned before. And what I'm doing now is I'm having a heavy session as my very first planche session of the week. The second one is a bit heavy, like it focuses more on like dynamics, like planche negative and stuff. And the final day will be a light session. So it would work on like the technicalities, and it would still keep the supplementary like planche, pseudo planche push-ups, but it would not be of much emphasis on like isometric holds. Now, I am still putting in a few holds at the start of each of my sessions, just to ensure I'm keeping that neurological touch with the planche. However, I feel like it's not as much of a necessity to, I guess, really hone down, just constantly drive that neurological thing. If you're focusing more on like strength gain, and you've already kind of like peaked at the point where you already know the neurological amount or like understanding of the straddle planche. In my case, I've been working on the straddle planche for a while, so it seems obvious to say that my body kind of already understands the stimulus, and it just requires a bit more of a back off supplementary work. And the main supplementary work that actually does the strength conditioning, you're gaining strength through these bent arm dynamic works. You're not getting strength from like merely doing isometric holds. Now, or at least like the strength that you gain is very minimal compared to the actual dynamic work that you implement. So in the sense that having a light session on my last training session of the week is that I allow myself a 2-day break, and then I get back into my cycle for the next week, and it seems like I feel a lot more fresh and I guess like rejuvenated. Like I just feel like I'm a lot more I got like substantial amount of like I guess like fuel in order to perform well and adequately for this session. I don't feel like there's any fatigue load or like anything that's like any like residual fatigue that comes from that week, and I just feel like I'm refreshed for the whole new cycle. So I guess this has happened 2 times in a week. So sorry, 2 times in a row. So essentially 2 weeks. And because of this, I don't feel like this is a coincidence. I feel like there was a genuine point where I had to realize and reconcile that I really did need to have like a light session. I can't constantly just be pursuing and like demanding these constant work onto my body and seemingly disregard or like deny the fact that I may be over fatiguing myself. In the case of many other people that are training, they probably have very high frequency. However, they don't go as intense in every single session. They auto-regulate, they do it by feel. And I've realized that I need to acknowledge, like I've started acknowledging this important factor, and it's really been beneficial for my training. Now, in terms of my wrist, I'm still feeling a bit of a pain in my left thumb region. However, the wrist wraps did help a bit. I alternated my grip on my parallettes to minimize the pain. And it definitely seems like the pain has come due to my sudden overuse of the parallettes. Although the parallettes are meant to be used and implemented to reduce the tension and like a compression on your wrist, in my case, I may have been over leaning and realized that there's so much more. I guess like I'm able to better adapt my strength using parallettes, and hence I overexerted myself a bit too much. So I'm keeping it a bit more on the groundwork. I'm trying to like rearrange my grip so that I'm not irritating my thumb, and just ensuring that I'm constantly like training without doing anything to screw up my injury again. The last thing I want to do is develop a chronic injury and just ruin my whole training for the next like 2 weeks. I really hate the idea of like not training at all for like a whole week or so, because I just feel like it takes me like more than a month for me to regain all my strength if I don't train for like a fortnight. And I feel like that's just so unfair that I lack that strength development and I just instantly lose it if I don't train. Although the muscle, there will be a very minimal muscle like loss in the case that I just don't train at all for 2 weeks. It's more of like that neurological adaptability that I lose touch with, and I really don't want to go over that same thing all over again, essentially. So that's basically it, and I'll finish it off here.